medal haul really started to gain momentum in the men's open board. Terrigal's Darren Borg was rated among the favourites, but everyone forgot about the man to his right, Graham Burgess. The Swansea club captain was one of the lucky ones to make it through the break, and on the run back to the beach stunned the crowd by leaving the lead pack and paddling away on his own. But then it all became clear why. He picked up a better wave and had an easy run to the line. And there wasn't a more popular winner on the beach the whole weekend. The 26-year-old ecstatic he took a chance with his local knowledge and it paid off.
I was behind him in semi-final. I came over to the right for the waves. I know it peaks up over there all the time. It's where we train every day of the week. And I did it in the final again then, so it come through for me.
Darren Borg finished out of a place and at the rear of the field.
Yeah, I'm pretty dirty, but that's surf. That's just the waves. It's whoever's best on the day.
The Swansea six-man rescue and resuscitation team also added a gold to their medal tally. Their style and precision calculated to be the best. Their five-man squad also won a bronze. But it wasn't all fun and joy for the green and yellows. Their Taplin relay team was a hot favourite, but finished 10th.
The surf's a great leveller. It brings everyone back to an even par. And Maroochydore were the defending champions, and they were running about 10th. They went into the last ski league and Clint stayed on his ski and came through and they won. So it's just the way it goes.
Sean and partner Graham Burge later made amends with a bronze in the Open Rescue Board. But the biggest shock for the host club, though, was the elimination of its under-18 boat crew in the quarter-finals. Last year's champs missed the wave that brought the three qualifiers through and they were shattered.
Get an unfavourable start and it's all over, you know. Once you get to the finals, everyone's good in it, so, you know, it can go anyway now. So.
And the Swansea sweep couldn't have made a more prophetic statement. Current state champions Terrigal were almost smashed out of their qualifier. The crew had some pretty nasty bumps and bruises, but there was concern that the sweep had broken his leg. Somehow he made a remarkable recovery and was back on deck for the final. And the youngsters faced the biggest waves of the day in the race to claim medals. The sweep is supposed to inspire confidence, but the Cooks Hill man in charge left without telling his mates what was coming. Surfers Paradise made it through unscathed. All they had to do was cross the line for gold, but they just couldn't hold on. Clearing the way for Terrigal to grab a bronze. But the drama just wasn't confined to the surf. Avoca's Bryce Johnson was disqualified from the beach sprint final after it was ruled he was the third runner to prompt a false start.
Yeah, at first I was okay, and then I just saw my dad and nearly got the tears going, but I'll be right, I'll get over it. We got second in the relay, so I'm not too upset.
The carnival also unearthed another star of the future. 15-year-old Kirsty Lou from Wombrel won a medal in every event she contested. Gold in the under-16 board and silver in the under-18 and open events. Another star performer was the organising committee of the Swansea Belmont Surf Club. The carnival went off without a hitch and the titles could well come back to the club within 3 years. Darren Curtis, NBN News.
The mixed news came at a government pricing tribunal in Newcastle, where Hunter Water gave its intended price list for the next financial year. If approved, residential rates will rise slightly, with the average householder to pay about $5 more a year. Business water bills will drop by about 15%, representing a $150 drop for a $1,000 account. The reduction is due to property valuation charges being phased out, with the users' pay system to save businesses $8 million a year. But there's bad news for first home buyers and new businesses. Business will pay twice as much if they want water connected temporarily to their house while it's being built, and a business will pay nearly 4 times as much if they want their meter bench tested. Hunter Water says the dramatic rises reflect the true cost of the services, which haven't increased for 5 years. But one charge under review is the fire service fee. It's claimed more than 1,600 businesses have been unfairly billed for a service they can't legally use under Hunter Water's own guidelines.
Well, it's clearly wrong, and the corporation has signalled that they're aware that it has to be changed, but they haven't gone far enough.
Businesses will have to pay for the charge for at least the next 3 years, with no plans to abolish the fee until 1997. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Coastal Ready-Mixed Concrete, which has 7 plants throughout the Hunter, is one of the 3 Newcastle-based companies placed in the hands of Sydney receivers Deloitte Touche and Tomatsu. The other companies are Arkland Lime and Cement, which proposed a giant limestone mining operation at Tamworth, and Quizrock, a quarry near Kurua. All 3 are associated with Newcastle businessman John Bate. Collectively, the group reportedly carries a debt of $27 million. The major creditor is the ANZ Bank, and faced with only a $7 million return, the banking institution called in the receivers on Friday. It's believed the receivers were at the Coastal Ready-Mixed office in Newcastle today. However, our attempts to confirm this or gain a comment from Mr Bates went unheeded. Ready-mixed employees are also feeling like they've been left in the dark. However, they did say they'd been told by management it was business as usual and that they would not lose any wages or holiday pay. The collapse is believed to be one of the biggest in the region's history and has caused uncertain times for the more than 40 Hunter-based employees. But the concerns aren't isolated to this area. News of the receivership has caused a stir in Tamworth. The New England town was the planned location for Mr Bates' Arkland Lime and Cement proposal, which involved mining limestone and exporting it through the Port of Newcastle.
We're expecting a lot of people to be employed out there. I think it's something like 90 people, and this is what we were like. This is what we're very happy about. And the multiplying factor of a cement works in Tamworth was enormous.
Despite this, there had been some local opposition to Arkland's establishment, many believing it would lead to job losses at another Tamworth lime mine. ANZ pulled the pin last week after Mr Bate returned from overseas without an investor for Arkland.
After 18 months of consultation, the Saltwater Guide has finally been collated and published. It covers topics such as the controversial catch and bag limits, fish sizes and the legal means of catching them.
Look, it's got all the basic do's and don'ts of fisheries. As I said, it's been a long time coming. The final presentation is one which is certainly worthwhile. I'm hoping that the general public will understand most of the things in there. Should they find problems with some parts of it, then I welcome their inquiry as well.
Representatives of anglers groups worked with fisheries officers to compile the guide. It attempts to marry conservation with recreation and identify species considered more at risk of being fished out. Launched today, the book will be readily available.
At any one of our offices here in the Newcastle area, either Swansea, Toronto or Newcastle, but also we will post them out to them. Also, we're hoping to have them into all major fisheries outlets, i.e. bait shops and tackle shops.
John Bell and Anna Volska are playing Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, a partnership not only on stage but one lasting 29 years of marriage. Next month, the two will join 13 other actors, embarking on a national tour with the Bell Shakespeare Company. Since the group emerged 4 years ago, the works of one of the greatest dramatists have continued to evolve.
It's boring to say, let's do it the way it was done last time. That gets you nowhere. The important thing is to say, what is it saying to us now? What does it mean? And how can we communicate that meaning to an audience?
Launching the season at the Civic is Macbeth, followed a week later by The Taming of the Shrew. Although classic in style, the costumes, lighting and music have been changed to suit contemporary audiences.
Well, both Taming of the Shrew and Macbeth, to take examples, are about sexual politics, about relationships between men, women, ambition, the individual. I could go on and on. I mean, are they important to us? I think they are.
On April the 19th, the company will stage a special theatre workshop for the public.
Shakespeare is a universal possession, and our job is to, as I say, to show Australian audiences, especially young audiences, what it means to us now. Duncan comes here tonight.
And when goes hence?
Tomorrow, as he purposes.
The $500,000 facility is the result of 2 years of planning by the university to provide staff with a work-based childcare centre. It's named Kawinda, meaning a happy place, and for 40 toddlers that's exactly what's planned. A team of carers will take charge of 30 children under the age of 3, another 10 up to the age of 5. The facility features 4 separate playrooms designed for 10 toddlers to 1 teacher. It's a custom-built centre with architects incorporating suggestions from and working closely with staff from the uni's early childhood course and the Department of Community Services. Outside, landscape playgrounds have been specially designed. An unusual feature, grapeseed pits providing a soft, non-toxic recyclable material and easily replaceable should the need arise.
Meanwhile, member for Swansea and left-winger Don Bowman was king of the kids at Swansea High School today for their Easter donation to the Salvation Army and the induction of school leaders. The former school teacher says his own party could learn some lessons about democracy from these youngsters.
Prefects and the school council have been chosen by the kids, not the teachers. And I don't think that the left of the Labor Party, or most of the people anyway, and the right of the Labor Party can afford to do worse than that.
Bowman calls the right-wing's decision to suspend pre-selection a very bad failure. With only 12 months until retirement, Bowman is seen as the most likely left-winger to leave his colleagues and sit on the cross-benches in Parliament, the most drastic action short of voting against his party.
If full-scale factional war breaks out, then you can't predict the consequences.
Bowman says seats can be found elsewhere for the right-wing shadow ministers. He says Mr Carr's job is not in question, but says he must show all his leadership qualities to avoid a split in the party. Mr Bowman is optimistic the right-wing will change its mind to avoid the party's June conference turning into a bitter faction brawl.
I believe that, it'll be a happy Easter for the Labor Party, but only because there will be the necessary things done to achieve a reasonable and fair settlement.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Governor Peter Sinclair arrived in the city to officially open the new building. He remembers well the earthquake that ripped apart the old building known as King's Hall.
I was sort of going up and down and bobbing up and down on a tractor, and I guess the earthquake occurred because we felt it up at Hawk's Nest without me realising it. It wasn't until I finished ploughing and went home that my wife told me that there'd been the earthquake.
Politicians and business people gathered today to recognise the effort by the diggers in financing the office block. They owned the land but spent years getting the money together to finally put something on top of it.
You've truly shown the fighting spirit to get it all together in the end.
Oh, we had to keep to it. You know, the committee are only a small bunch of fellas representing a large group of veterans, and we had to keep going. It could have been easy a couple of times to throw in the towel.
70% of the building is already leased out as office space. The rental income will help the Newcastle RSL sub-branch pay off its loan and also give money to charity. The diggers will continue to meet at their office in Hunter Street Mall.
Every time I come to Newcastle, I see evidence of a new city being reborn, and there are so many positive things happening in this great place. I just like coming to Newcastle. The people are tremendous, and as you say, this is further evidence of the fact that Newcastle is going to be an even better city when the rebuilding is finally completed.
The blaze broke out in the Denali Street house around 10:30 last night. 4 coal miners driving to work raised the alarm. Firefighters were on the scene within minutes and quickly contained the blaze to the deceased woman's back bedroom. It sustained considerable damage, with the rest of the house affected by smoke and heat.
When police entered the house, they found the body of the elderly female at the base of a bed. She had some head wounds, and the house had obviously been attempted to be set alight from the bedroom.
85-year-old Margaret Howlett, who lived alone, was well known in the Singleton community. Back at the scene this morning, police said there was no apparent motive for Mrs Howlett's death, but believe it was not due to the fire. The official cause of death, however, will be determined by the coroner during a post-mortem on Monday or Tuesday. Police believe the 2 hours prior to the fire is crucial to their inquiry and request anyone near the scene around that time to contact them. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
Wayne Lambourne went into the final as favourite after winning all 5 lead-up games. That alone almost deserved an award considering the national class invitational field taking part. But he just couldn't find his rhythm in the early ends. That allowed Mark McMahon to make up an easy break. McMahon spent most of his early playing days in Hong Kong, and due to the sheer number of competitors, he's more than used to pressure. There was one light side to the final though. Australian bowling legend Rob Perella took on the role of marker and dyed his hair specially for the occasion. Lambourne finally had the bias rolling right, and the pair were neck and neck at the end at 36 ends. McMahon claiming the $3,000 winner's cheque with his last bowl on the 37th.
The manufacturing sector in New South Wales has recorded the best March quarter result in a decade. However, manufacturing in Newcastle hasn't kept up. Chamber of Manufacturers Regional Manager Jeff Latham says there was no improvement in productivity or in the number of forward orders during March.
We think it's probably because the basic metals and the metal fabrication industry up here is the major industry, and perhaps it's not performing as well as what some of the other industries are that the survey covered.
The survey covered 12 industry groups, including steelmaking, clothing and footwear. Jeff Latham says the news isn't all bad. Manufacturing is expected to improve in the June quarter.
They're fairly optimistic about what's going to happen in the next quarter, in the June quarter, because they're actually starting to employ people, which is a good sign.
Although a little stiff and sore from 2 days of competition, Justine Daly has come home a winner. She's now the Victorian Ruby champion, the traditional dance champion, the National Cup champion, making her Australia's champion of champions.
Each championship is a set of 4 dances with set steps, and I actually won every dance to win the overall point score, so I was very excited.
For 17 years, hours of dedicated practice have paid off, but at a price.
I've had trouble with shin splints and pains in the arches of my feet and that sort of thing. So.
Is it all worth it, do you think?
Yes, definitely.
And the hard work's not over yet. Next weekend, Justine will defend her Australasian title in Sydney, and in September, she's hoping to follow in her teacher's footsteps by taking out the World Championships in Scotland.
Well, my auntie, Flora Carter, as she was Flora Grubb, actually won the World Championships in 1961, so I'd love to do that, but I don't know.
Yesterday we brought you the story of young Mark O'Brien. The Windale boy kept an aviary while he helped his mum prepare for a lung transplant. But this bird sanctuary was robbed on Friday night, the thieves stealing the birds worth $3,000, and along with the birds, Mark's dream of breeding them. But it was a more cheerful Mark today, as he was given a surprise visit to a much larger aviary at Madawi. His guide, Wayne Dempsey, has bred birds for 28 years and wanted to keep Mark interested in the hobby despite what happened to the 13-year-old last week. Mark was shown a vast array of Australian native birds, but his favourite was still the ring-necked parrots. What Mark didn't realise was that he was in for a little surprise.
Oh, I was that surprised, it was unbelievable. Like thought I was stuck without them now, but it's good now.
Well, I remember when I was 14-year-old myself and started keeping birds, and I thought it'd be a terrible way to, destroy a kid's dream, because of some selfish people.
Mark didn't have to be told twice. He had the birds packed and ready for their new home to finally fulfil his dream. Richard O'Leary, NBN News. The Governor, accompanied by his wife, was greeted by the Upper Hunters local, state and federal politicians, along with the Hunter Valley Training Company staff. The visit fulfilled a promise made by the Governor 2 years ago when he awarded the company the Prince of Wales Trophy for outstanding service to young Australians. He chatted with apprentices who've helped the company establish its reputation for producing outstanding young metalworkers and electricians. The HVTC has 3 plants throughout the state, with 500 apprentices and 400 trainees, following a long list of young people who've learnt their trade with the company.
Yeah, there are 2,600 young people, men and women out there, who are now working as tradesmen and tradeswomen who probably would not be there but for Hunter Valley Training Company.
Governor Sinclair says the company has proved the importance of training young Australians for the workforce. Rear Admiral Sinclair looked just as pleased at the handiwork of young apprentice Michael Baker, who shares the same model-making habits as the Governor. The fitter and machinist built a replica 10-class locomotive for the visitor to keep as a memento. Richard O'Leary, NBN News. Middleby was in a relaxed mood after signing the deal with the Breakers. His short-term future comes less than a week since he returned from a successful European tour with the Australian under-20 side. Middleby, who can play striker or winger, was offered an attractive contract with the Sydney club but decided to stay at home.
I had Blacktown on the cards, but I thought so much travelling and stuff like that was too much for me, and I'd rather play in my hometown with the support by the local Newcastle public.
Well, it's a very important signing, Richard. I'm going to say he's a tremendous young talent. He's done extremely well over in Holland. They've been very impressed with him. Eddie Thompson's made some comments to the local coaching staff. They've been very excited with the way he's performed.
The club has only signed 3 players and is awaiting the appointment of a new coach after the retirement of Graham Jennings. But Middleby says he still has to prove himself in the National League to become a regular in the team, after only playing 6 games for the Breakers last season.
Next season is to establish myself in the team, have a regular spot, and then hopefully make the World Youth Cup team from that.
Middleby will play for the Adamstown Rosebuds in the State Soccer League, with his first game at home on Sunday. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
The Long Jetty Centre is expected to improve mail deliveries to residents at the entrance and in 8 surrounding areas. Although it's been operating for some weeks, it was officially opened today by the Minister for Communications and Arts, Michael Lee, who's also the federal member for Dobell. The centre has a staff of 22 and a mail delivery contractor who will handle an estimated 5 million letters and small packets to 19,000 private and 1,200 business delivery points. Mail will be exchanged with the Central Coast Sorting Centre at Lisarow, which is linked to the state mail network. The entrance post office will soon lose another service. Its counter facilities will be moved to leased premises at Lakeside Plaza.
Lake Macquarie provided ideal sailing conditions for the 190 entrants as the crews got down to the business end of the championship. Each vessel is judged on its best 3 performances over the 4 days, and with only tomorrow left, the competition was intense. The catamarans were skating over the lake's surface to post the best times of the day, with Pekin the first vessel home in just over 80 minutes. The Tiny Moth entrant from Grafton High kept its championship hopes alive, coming 6th in Division 1. Hamilton St Francis Xavier's aptly named race, the first to greet the judge in the top division. Port Macquarie's Jason McGlashan continues to dominate the sailboards, winning his 3rd straight race. After 3 days of racing, Calo High leads the field in a heron, Grafton High's Moth leads Division 1, Maitland High in the Hobie 16 Nacra heads Division 2, with Jason McGlashan in an unbeatable position in the sailboards. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Lake Macquarie Council last night decided to divide the city into 3 wards instead of the current 4. That's in line with the new Local Government Act, which requires councils to have a maximum of 15 representatives. Come 1995, Lake Macquarie will have 12 councillors plus the mayor instead of 16. While the new boundaries still have to be worked out, Mayor John Kilpatrick believes there'll be problems.
With the 3rd ward being extended, it'll probably end up being either taking up as far as West Wallsend and Edgeworth and Seahampton, or it'll come round the lake, taking in Spears Point, Bullaroo and Warners Bay, which makes it a very big ward, I think, to be administered.
Councillor Alan Davis is one of 4 councillors servicing 3rd Ward from Waiee to Burrigal. Like the mayor, he believes the new ward will be too big.
Well, it's difficult now with the difference in the fragmentation in that ward particularly, and the way it stretches the size of it. It's going to be even more difficult to service if it becomes in area the half of the city.
There are those councillors, though, including those aligned with the ALP, who believe 3 wards with 4 councillors is the best alternative. Both the mayor and Councillor Davis question their intentions.
I believe that there's been some political manoeuvring in this, in as much as that the northern end is traditionally a Labor stronghold, and there's going to be probably a stronger Labor vote coming out of that area.
Beach hauling mullet is traditionally lucrative for commercial fishermen, a good day's catch fetching up to $40,000. With mullet now spawning around Newcastle and Port Stephens, professional Queensland fishermen have ventured south to cash in on the hauls. Competition for top dollar has caused animosity between local and visiting fishermen, but it's not through anyone breaking fishing laws. The coastline is fair game.
The visiting fishermen are a lot more mobile and going looking for the fish, whereas the traditional crews here are more content to maybe wait for the fish to come to them.
Mullet fishermen always travel. It's been the way it's done for many, many years. It's the fish travel and so do the fishermen.
Elwyn Blanche acknowledges the Queenslanders' right to fish in Newcastle, but he's angered by how they're going about it.
They're interfering along the main beach there at Stockton, up near the Sigma and that, where they're catching tailor and they're running over their lines.
Instances of Queensland fishermen hauling other species like tailor has also put recreational anglers offside.
What you're going to have, and it has been happening, is the effect on the tourism industry. Now, you look at areas like Crescent Heads, there the traditional hauling of these fish has certainly affected the number of catches for the recreational anglers.
Recognising the problems, the State Fisheries Department is devising a draft beach haul management plan to clearly define rules. One option being considered is regional access, whereby only commercial fishermen with a history of operating in a certain area would be permitted to work that local spot. Other options being looked at include limits on the size of nets and quotas on the number of fish caught. The management plan should be finalised next year.